Welcome back to this Let's Play of Dominions 4. As you can see, a lot of things have happened this turn. A new global has been cast, and lots of pale ones have died. Looks like our surprise attack in the ocean suddenly went awry in the second try round. At least we defeated some shark warriors trying to get out of the water. But something went wrong underwater. Nay, stop. This is one of our normal battles against Mictlan, and while I lost some mages, which is bad, we also killed some mages, which is good, and we dunked on another major enemy force. Again, lots of useless slaves, but more important, expensive sacreds have died, which means since there are certain limits to recruiting sacreds in most nations, I can't remember if Mictlan, I think Jaguar warriors are also cap only, but I'm not sure. Anyway, since they are sacreds, you can only recruit a certain amount of them anyway, either per capital or per province, so the more we kill, the less we have to deal with. And now this province is mostly secure and we can route more forces down south to get closer to the capital, Mictlan itself. And Bogarus is still hanging in there. Oh, the defending forces of Mictlan killed nearly 100 pale ones and forced us into retreat. Yeah, even Mictlan has good underwater units and we don't. So let's watch and try to find out what went wrong here. Of course, just after saying this, I switched on the other battle on land, which went a lot better than for us. This time we have mage support, and since I'm using level 2 death mages, this means hordes of skeletons are suddenly appearing on the battlefield. I still have tons of elephants, even though they are getting more vulnerable by the second, thanks to their low magic defense. I should say resistance, but well, it's the same thing. Just used the wrong word. And now mammoths are trampling across enemy lines, while our support mages and our little decaying bane darts, our archers archering, and our storm guards are storming. A huge mess. Enemy wizards cast sleep clouds. That's this green little stuff on the battlefield. Clouds generally stay for a couple turns and do something. Sleep clouds make units sleepy. Fire clouds burn them, and so on. In this case, yes, a minimum effect. Some of our mammoths will probably get a little bit sleepy thanks to all those sleep clouds, but our main armies are unaffected, so the battle will go on for a while. Besides, the enemy is already dead at this point. Our growing horde of undead gets closer and closer, and I have so many archers, they literally can't miss every time they fire. So even regenerating monster units with a second shape can't take that many hits. And as you can see, they're starting to run away already. And that's basically it. Now all survivors run away. Some get hit for some additional damage. And that's it. They're leaving the battlefield. And this was our victory in Saborea. Next time, after this mess, would be battle in Lake of God. Now let's see what went wrong underwater. Ah yes, now I remember, we tried to storm this underwater kelp fort. Doesn't seem like the enemies should be able to stop us. Of course, if you look closely, you see our pale ones are still massive enough in number to block our water elementals from getting through. Enemies are not that numerous, but they have Shark Knight. Okay, just one of them. Shamblers. Shamblers are not very good units, but at least they have more HP than our pale ones. And they're not as hilariously incapable of hitting something. Also, of course, there are two enemy monsters here. A large sea snake and a kraken. Both of them can do some damage. The kraken has, thanks to his many arms, multiple attacks. And this means multiple pale ones will get toasted soon. And again, our own best units are all positioned behind our worst ones. This seems to not be a good decision on my part. Frozen Heart gets thrown around. One of the few attack spells which can work underwater, but it's fairly short range, so it's not much use, except for edge cases where you let your mages run forward and then shoot out spells, or where the front lines are getting close to your mages. Like in this case, well, not exactly for our mages most of the time, but I see two names of our spellcasters there, so I guess the battlefield is still compact enough for them to hit anything. I've had battles where my mages absolutely refused to use spells like Frozen Heart because the enemy was sitting too far away. Well, as you can see, our pale ones are getting messed up. I think I already see some of them running away. Yeah, pale ones are horrible. And after this catastrophe, I probably will never use them again. Ever. Even if I'm playing a nation with pale ones. Really, they seem to be even more ineffective than their stats would suggest. The really sad thing is, since they're running away so much, they're getting close to causing our entire army to rout. This is called a hit point rout. If too many units are getting slaughtered or running away, then you will auto lose the battle. At least it looks like a couple of our better units are now in the front. Our shamblers, and some trolls, and a single water elemental who came through. Too bad they are now outnumbered by the defenders, thanks to our pale ones mostly fleeing. So it looks like this battle won't go well for us. I don't see the snake or the kraken anymore, but I guess after doing a number on our units, they aren't really needed. Oh, I see the kraken running away. And I see some of the defenders running away, but even more of our units are running away. Yes, this is basically a race of incompetence here, and the worst of the worst will lose. And it seems it's us, because now our shamblers are running away, and even though the enemy Shark Knight is also running away, we are running out of units to do anything, and that's it. The last bit of our armies is broken, and we are running away. That was close. Sadly not close enough. And as you saw, yes, as you saw here, and now again, literally every single one of our surviving leaders ended up retreating into an enemy province and dying. Now that's what I call bad luck. Otherwise, some more unrest, and we are back to our normal turn. Seems we gotten some imps here, and we have tons of mages here. Sadly not many with death level 2, which my death strategy needs. And our research is still on its way. Oh, I didn't even notice at first, but Dwight D. Eisenhower has taken another throne somewhere. Good for America, I guess. But yes, Bogaros is still hanging in there, but now we have destroyed multiple Mictlan armies, and I think we can go on the offensive once more. After all, I would like to get at least another capital before the inevitable war with Bogaros starts. Lots of scripting again. And I still have so many mammoths, even though I think I've stopped recruiting them some time ago. Yeah, now I have to find more and exciting ways to use them up. Now that there aren't any independent provinces to squash, they're really not that useful anymore. Now that every battle will be decided by magic mostly. And then you don't want some easily spookable tramplers around, especially not here, where hundreds of units are the norm, and as you saw, sometimes thousands of units can enter the battlefield. In this case, tramplers are only useful if they can't be accidentally sent back through your own lines, and that's the one big weakness of all elephant-like units. They can easily be spooked, they can easily be hit by magic, and this includes of course magic which can turn them against your own units. So I really need to kill them off, since I can't just not anti-recruit them, recycle them or something. That's not possible. Would be nice if I could make some mammoth steaks out of them to gain some more supplies or something, but well, that's not part of the game. Instead, mammoths will cost upkeep until the end of days or until they are finally dead. Anyway, time to march our army farther south. And we got the Throne of the Moon. Keep forgetting to mention this. Now I'm starting to recruit some guys here. Mostly a Raven Lord to do some scouting, and some random units just to keep the fort from being empty. Don't want to see Mictlan marching into it without what's the word? Without resistance, let's say this. Can't remember the other English word I wanted to use. Well, 10 years of speaking English and I'm still horrible at it. Speaking of horrible, 24 mammoths. Holy shit. This army needs to go south and see some battles, so I can use those fuckers up. Still tons of enemy units, but by now, even this being a gimmick game won't help Mictlan much, especially since I see at least 2 of its 4 provinces on land are only swamp provinces, so even in a gimmick game there isn't much income to get there. Besides, look at this, Saborea has income of 618 gold. Even with some unrest on it. This means Mictlan's money was mostly its capital in this one province. And we just nearly cut their gold income in half. So hopefully they won't be able to keep up fighting for much longer. Of course, this means Bogarus will be soon freed to take some action. The only good thing is, since he has been hanging around at that one for so much, you will need a second large army down in the south, or you will have to march around those mountains to get in the south. If I interpret those terrain features correctly. Oh man. In hindsight, I should have cut out some of all the scripting, but by now it's a bit too late. Ah, yes. Nice weather outside, yes. I have to let my cat out soon. Ah, more large blocks or lines. But soon it will get silly. I think I've mentioned it some time ago, but this game really isn't made for thousands of units. Generally, after a couple hundred, you already start running out of space to put your squads down, and really all those fancy formations aren't really worth much if your entire army is basically one huge blob after you place down everything. That said, sometimes you still need some kind of command. I mean, if you don't want your units to run forward and get friendly fired by your mages, for example, you'll still need to use guard commander instead of just letting them do whatever they want. Stuff like that. Or when you know that there are large enemy monsters around, you probably want to focus fire all your archers and units on them instead of whatever chefs there is. After all, just by being there, your own units will block enemy units from moving, so the only problem are stronger than usual units. I hope I'm making sense here. I'm basically just swatting time until I'm done with scripting. And now a new army is mostly ready. Well, and I think that's mostly it already for this turn. But of course there are still units here and there left to script. Considering how many units I have and how many I'm recruiting each turn, it's inevitable that wherever I look there will be units still unscripted. Yes, let's try to move around a bit to this vulnerable edge province here, because I don't want to Mictlan to get it and then Bogarus to snatch it away again. In Dominions 4, people are sometimes quite cheeky like this. So let's head this off by powering up defenses and maybe attack towards the swamp fortresses this way. And there's still those giant underwater armies of Yomon. But as you can see, all our fortresses at the coast are finished. Huge blocking armies are everywhere to draw them back if they can gain a foothold. And there are temples everywhere, so they should be losing their dominion soon, and then Yomon will finally be killed off for good. And as you can see, I've finally have given up on throwing pale ones into the ocean to no effect, and instead started recruiting priests to start preaching to speed up the process of dominion destruction down in the water. Sooner or later, our many temples and priests here will spread our dominion far enough into the water to reach the last of Yomon's underwater provinces, and then Yomon will be defeated finally and forever. And now it has begun. First priests start preaching, and even funnier, since my pretender has now taken up residence in Yomon itself, and our pretender is also spreading dominion, like multiple temples even, I think. This means Yomon will soon be destroyed forever. It's even better since I see Pangaea having temples there too. So basically, Yomon's dominion will be squished from both sides, just a bit faster from our side. And then, okay, I think I've said, then Yomon will be destroyed often enough at this point. The only thing left is now recruiting units, recruiting priests, recruiting mages, and making sure everything goes well everywhere. As you can see, I've started building more temples and fortresses up north too, mostly because I noticed my dominion in the north tanking really hard. That's, I guess, the trouble with having blood nations as your neighbor. It's always interesting how fast your dominion can disappear thanks to their shenanigans. So I hope by putting temples and fortresses down everywhere, temples of course are obvious why I need them. The fortresses is because if there ever is war up here, then I don't want some strong raiding force to tear down my temples one by one. Since this is a gimmick game with maximum money, I can and will not only build tons of temples everywhere, but also a fortress in almost every single province. This basically will mean... oh, one of my temples went down here. Let's rebuild this. This will basically mean that if I'm raided, those raids will be forced to siege down the defending fortress first before they can destroy my temple. In a normal game, this kind of tactic would be hard to pull off thanks to enormous amounts of money you'll need. Generally, when you can do this without weakening your armies you've already won. In this gimmick game, almost everyone can do this. As you can see, even Mictlan had a castle in almost every province. In every province, I think, total. So really, no reason not to do this. The funny thing is, since I'm pushing my own dominion in the south so hard, I've noticed far too late what was happening in the north. Mostly because as long as I'm looking at the south, everything seems fine because my dominion is super strong everywhere. But by now I've noticed what was happening in the north and started to slowly counteract it. mage production gets replaced with priest production in some provinces. New temples and new castles are going up everywhere, and hopefully this will slow down or even reverse the dominion loss in the north. But let's be real here, if this dominion push would be sent into my direction instead to Garth's enemies, I would hardly be able to do more than slow it down. But since I'm not the intended victim, I see still good chances to get my dominion up again. At least in the south, the belief in overgrown Cembalo Pinferra is still going strong at least. So, my capital. There are more and more Banefire towers I'm building here. Level 3 death, level 1 fire is necessary for Banefire. Banefire is basically this horrible fire death, utterly destroying everything in their path. Of course, I have literally the worst nation ever to use Banefire. I can only do this because some of my Harab elders have a slight chance at getting additional level in fire to their air and death. And every time this happens, I just have to give the Harab elder a skull staff and instant Banefire fire thrower. In some cases, I had to use fire gems to give them their level 1 in fire, and in some cases I have done the same to Mount Fiends, undead mages you can summon who have natural level 3 in death. In this case they just need level 1 in fire, and suddenly I have a mage capable of destroying a small army with a couple casts. The drawback, of course, is the most effective strategy with death mages is still flooding the entire battlefield with skeletons. So using them to destroy stuff with fireballs, well, death fireballs, but still fireballs, is suboptimal. But I just wanted to see how it works out, since I have time and resources to do this dumb shit. And I'm fighting Bogarus, and while Bogarus could theoretically use death magic, they have so many other options, they probably won't. And they have tons of living units I can easily burn, so I can be experimental with this. I just have to get enough of my Banefire mages so they can do enough damage. Because 1 or 2 of them will be impressive, but not too much when thousands of units are involved. But if I can get at least half a dozen or more, then I can basically set half the battlefield ablaze with special death fire, decaying and whatever else. It's nasty stuff. But it's still in the future by this point. I'm still slowly upgrading, and as you saw, I had to start preaching with my Harab elders instead of researching. Well, my research is high enough that I can do this, and Harab elders are strong priests, so at least my capital should get safely back to our own dominion sooner or later. And in case you're wondering, I'm getting close to the part where I have to rename tons of commanders just to keep remembering what they're supposed to do. The problem with my main mages is, if you remember, they have multiple paths, and only some of them get the useful level 2 paths in something. Some get level 2 in air, some get level 2 in death, and most of them are just a jumble of level 1 paths, useful only for research and some edge cases. So this of course means, since they all look the same, if I'm in the army setup menu, there is some trouble keeping my scripting straight, since it takes time to just go through all my scripts to see which one works and which not. I will have to rename my mages to to get some kind of naming scheme I can use to keep control. So level 2 death mages will get one name and a number, level 2 air mages will get another name and number, and the useless gits will get their own names too, and so on. That's at least a theory. Let's see how long I can keep this madness up with hundreds of mages. After all, every time one of my named mages die, I have to rename a replacement, and Lorasp, the Harab Seraph, doesn't really tell me what Lorasp can do. So well, I'm basically making myself more work just so I won't go insane trying to keep up with my mage scriptings. How I envy those nations who have reasonable main mages with reasonable, understandable capabilities instead of my chaotic Harab Seraphs and their stupid 3, 4, 5 different combinations of magic paths. At this point I don't even know if late age Calum even has the normal Ira Seraph, the mage with level 2 in air and level 1 in water, the basic wind mage of a wind nation. Late age Calum has so many death related stuff, it makes it really hard to keep a purely air strategy running. That's the reason why I went with death magic this time around. But still, you get a lot of air, and if you're unlucky, not a lot of death mages. Late age Calum is basically a jumbled mess. And that's it. Turn is over. See you next time. Lipluini out.